I don't know, maybe some of you know me before. I'm Sergen, but you can call me Serge because I believe Sergen is hard to pronounce for you. Today's class is about effective communication in project management, but not only in project management, all kind of management types. So let's start with the main title, like communication is, which is one of the many skills that managers need in project management, but it's the most important if you ask me. All contents and strategies shared in management are directly or indirectly related to effective communication. Here is a sentence like idiom that I really like. Communication is entrusting a part of yourself to another person. That is the real topic about communication, because in leadership or decision-making, problem-solving, teamwork, training, employee development and empowerment, ethics, and all other areas relevant to modern managers, this section aims to be practical, and we will detail the following topics in the presentation, like you can see here. So, inexperienced managers sometimes confuse speaking with communication and hearing with listening, but they are all different. The following example illustrates that speaking and hearing do not necessarily lead to effective communication. Like, I know you understand what I said, but I'm not sure you heard what I meant. Or maybe we can say like, what you say may not be exactly what others hear, and what others hear may not be exactly what you intend to say. And the key is here intent, because what is missing here is communication, like effective communication, because communication involves speaking or listening, but it's much deeper than them. So from the perspective of total quality management, communication is defined as the transmission of both the received and understood messages. A message can be sent by one person and received by another, but communication does not occur until the message is understood by both parties, like you can see as the figure 1. And communication can be like all different types, like verbal, nonverbal, or written communication. And this applies to all of these types. And we have different levels of communication, like one-on-one communication. It involves one person communicating with the another one. And this can be face-to-face, a phone call, a simple gesture, or like we are doing here, a lesson, like a meeting. The team or unit communication level involves communication with a group, like here. The main difference between one-on-one and team communication is that all team members are present at the same time during the process. Getting the team together to solve a problem as a project manager is a great opportunity for team level communication. And it's one of the most important for us as project managers. The company level communication is one another we are using in project management, because it can be used in different groups within the company. A meeting with different departments in the company is a good opportunity, or we can say it's a good example for communication in company level. And the community level communication takes place between groups within the company or outside the company. And we can we can say like a preacher, he can communicate in community level because he can communicate with different groups in the church, maybe you are a member of. And we are coming in effective communication in project management. And Here is the most important part, if you ask me. When a message is understood, communication takes place, but this communication alone is not effective communication because it involves more than that. Like effective communication means that the message is received, understood, and acted upon as intended. The responsibility for effective communication lies with the sender. So you will be the key as the project manager with effective communication. For example, let's say a manager asks the employees on their team to work an extra 15 minutes. And I'm sure maybe more than that, we all live something like this in our company life, working life, and work each day for the next 2 weeks, maybe next 4 weeks, it can be more, because it's important to complete the orders on time. So each team member receives the message and confirms that they understand it. It's okay, no problem. However, 2 team members decide not to comply. There is a problem about our communication here. This is an example of ineffective communication. The 2 workers understood the message, but they choose not to comply with it. In this case, the manager has failed to successfully communicate the message. Effective communication is much higher level of communication like we use in our lives. It involves receiving, understanding, and acting on the message. In short, we can say effective communication requires persuasion and motivation. And motivation is the important part in it, and observation and leadership. And we are all leaders as a project managers. So we need to have these skills when communicating with our members, with our team. So the next part is understanding the role of effective communication. I used a different side of the management here, like total quality management. If we say total quality is an engine, then communication is the fuel that keeps the engine running. And many aspects of total quality depend on effective communication. Without effective communication, it will collapse. So some important elements of total quality concepts are customer focus, both internal or external, and total employee involvement and empowerment, leadership, teamwork, decision-making, problem prevention, problem solving, and many others. All of these elements are dependent on effective communication. So we should be using our leadership skills, like effective leadership, as the name implies, requires effective communication. So it's inspire others to fully and willingly commit to the organization's objectives or the project we are managing. To achieve this, managers must communicate with employees or the team members about the organization's goal or the project's goal and how they can achieve them. And ultimately help employees achieve their own goals. But we should use their ideas too. So if we are trying to communicate like effectively, we can communicate both ways. Like we can hear their thoughts, their what they think about the project and how to achieve these goals. Teamwork is inherently dependent on communication. We can say that like with these examples. In conclusion, communication plays a critical role in total quality or any management types and is clearly essential. And it plays a simplifying role for all kind of management process. So while I say process, the next one is understanding communication as a process, because communication is a process, but not only talking or listening or hearing or any other things. It consists of several components, like we can see in the second picture here. These components are the message, sender, receiver, and the channel. The channel is our communication type. The sender is the source of the center of the message, while the receiver is the group or individual to whom the message is transmitted. The message is the information. So the channel is the transporting the message. So it's our communication types. There are four basic categories of media. So verbal, non-verbal, written, or electronic. The verbal category encompasses all approaches involving face-to-face communications, telephone conversations, speech, and more others, like spoken words. The non-verbal category is one of the best, if I can say that, or maybe you can agree, because we people are using so much non-verbal communication in our lives. Like sometimes we don't even need words, or we don't even need speaking. We can only use some gestures, facial expressions, or body language. And the written category, by the way, we will see these non-verbal category in a different level, like maybe in 10 pages later. The written category is comprises letters, notices, billboards, user guides, books, many others like that. And the electronic category, like any type of electronic transmission that's converted into the message, like emails or any other things. So technological developments have a significant impact on our ability to convey information, but we still lay on our verbal and non-verbal communication. So word processing, satellite communication, computer models, wireless phones, or any other technologies among these developments. However, the barriers to effective communications always exist in these technologies too, regardless how advanced these tools may be. So we should understand the four part of the communication, like source, receiver, channel, and message. These are the important things about understanding communication as a process. So while we talked about the barriers, we can say like realizing the factors that hinder communication. And these are things so important for us to know. Managers should be aware of various factors that can hinder effective communication in the workplace. So the most common factors to affect communication are listed right here, like kill the messenger syndrome, and it comes from so much, how can I say, from old times. So let's start with differences in meanings. Differences in meanings can cause problems in communication. Like people have different backgrounds, education levels, cultures, which can result in words, gestures, and facial expression carrying different meanings for different individuals. Like I can give an example for that. If I make this like this, it means in Turkey, in my country, or in my culture, it means the meal was perfect. But in other countries, this gesture, this hand gesture is it means so much different things, like in Italy or in French. Yeah, in French. So therefore, as managers, we should spend time getting to know our employees in order to understand them better and make them understand us better. The second one, lack of trust. If the receiver does not trust the sender, they may become overly sensitive or protective. As a result, they may become too focused on searching for something hidden between the lines and miss the message itself. Therefore, it's crucial for trust to be established and developed between managers and employees. So you should establish the real trust between you as a project manager and the team members. So the next one, information overload. This is many of us doing this, and it's hard to run away from. Like the rapid and continuous flow of information enabled by advancement in communication technology often leads to the overload of information, and managers and employees have to deal with. This is called information overload. So we should be like short and net about our messages. So we can cope with information overload by using methods such as observing, organizing, summarizing, and simplifying the information. The next one is interrupting. By the way, you can interrupt me if you have any questions, because I cannot see the chat section. So I'm going on again. Interruption is an external distraction that hinders effective communication. Like as I told you, if you interrupt when I was speaking or when I was communicating, it will cut all the information. So it can be as simple as background noise or a complex or as atmospheric condition that disrupts satellite communication. Like therefore, as managers, we should be careful about the environment while we are communicating with our team members or with the company, like anything you can say. The received tone of voice. This one, I cannot say like it's not important, but it's about culture or the people communicating. Like a sarcastic tone of voice can be a barrier to effective communication, but sometimes it can be provide more focused people when they are listening to you. So, but sometimes people do not enjoy being belittled, and they may respond with a higher tone of voice than what is in the message. And it's more like differences in meaning when you are using different voice tones. The next one is pure listening skills. People think only the listeners should listen and they should have good listening skills. But as project managers, we should have listening skills too, because if we cannot listen what our team members or what our company or what the group says, we cannot understand them, and this will never lead us to a good point for our goals. So, and if this weak listening skills create a serious obstacle in front of communication, many problems will arise. So be careful about listening to your group, your members as a manager. Immature judgments held by either the sender or the receiver, like poor listening skills, and can be a barrier to effective communication. These are usually formed when judgments come into play before listening. So before communicating with group members, you should know them and let them know you. This way, we can we can go further and we can get past that immature judgments. So people tend to stop listening once they have made a decision, but this may be before your communication between the listener. So you can manage to play with it, like I can say, and you can probably manage to know them and what they think about you. So you can use this information while communicating, and you can win against those judgments when communicating. And the next one is false assumptions. And this one is our perceptions are influenced by our assumptions, like always, and consequently incorrect assumption can end communication even before it starts. It's something like judgments, and they can end our communication before even it starts. And the last one is, and the oldest one is, kill the messenger syndrome. And here I have an example about that. In the days of gladiators fighting in the Colosseum in Rome, killing the messenger who brought bad news was a commonly practiced method. It can be hard to understand, but killing the messenger is something like how can I say that? Like something like religious understanding in old communities. Like in more civilized societies, similar traditions are still being applied in the workplace, especially. And messenger killing managers will eventually be left on with only with employees who say what the management wants to hear, instead of those who tell the truth. And we can see this example in politics, actually. Like politics is one kind of management, like project management, and they are using these messenger killing methods. So these things happens in even politics too. So this dangerous situation will ultimately lead to uninformed and misdirected managers. And as a project manager, we should know almost everything about our members and our project's process. Next one is establishing a conducive communication climate. And I will take this like a short one. Information flows in two-way and continuous manners that enable people to access information that is constantly evolving and improve their performance. Poor communication climates are characterized by information being swept under the rug, people being afraid to ask questions, and organization leaders hoarding information as a source of power. And we can see this like kill the messenger syndrome, some sort of. So the following strategies will help organizational leaders like us establish and maintain an effective communication climate. Like the first one, establish a climate where effective communication can occur in organizations that seek effective communication. Such climates are characterized not only by individuals' freedom to communicate as they wish, but also by expectations of communication. Information flows in two-way, continuous, and designed to enable people access information that develops and improves their performance. Like share this information with anyone who can benefit from it. As a project manager, we should do this quite often. Encourage and take seriously questions, comments, different perspective, opposing idea, and most importantly, opposing ideas and better ideas. Avoid one-way communication like we are doing here. And let me check if any message comes to the chat, but use hand reaction to raise. Okay. I saw the Antonella's message right now. And the next one is listen carefully and objectively, avoid punishing the messenger, like killing the messenger. And when the information given in communication is not good or pleasant, because believe me, many times we will not get the good or pleasant messages about our projects. So be ready for it and listen carefully. So now, communication through listening. One of the most important communication skills is listening, yet it's often the skill people are least proficient in. Good listeners tend to listen more than they talk, making them effective listeners. But it's not the best type of it. Interrupting or cutting someone off before they finish speaking eliminates the possibility of understanding what the real message in their speak. Moreover, this situation may cause the speaker to stop speaking and sending the main message in their communication, because you can make them think like, I don't have time to listen to you, or I don't need to hear your thoughts, hear your ideas. I don't need to know your ideas. Like expressing opinions before speaker completes their messages, or multitasking while someone is talking, send the message, I don't want to hear you, or I don't need to hear you. Leaders who send this message will get what they want, but the problem lies in the fact that from a total quality perspective, and I'm not sure if you know what's total quality, but we can use total quality even in our communication. So that's why I'm using total quality quite often here. And asking questions not only improves understanding, but also shows that the listener is open and wants to comprehend the message and wants to learn more. Maybe we can say wants to understand what is the main title or main message in the communication. These are appropriate times to ask questions, like maybe you can find some little breaks, or maybe moving on the next or another topic. These are the best times to ask some questions about between the topics. However, if a critical point needs to clarification, it is acceptable to stop to the speaker with gestures that mean one moment, or can I, like a little hand gesture. If the speaker needs to be stopped in this way, the point where they stopped should be noted as the speaker, so the discussion can continue later and the message can be sent in the best way. By the way, Lumbayi Lunga, if I'm right, using the hand, like.
Hello,
Yeah, hello.
can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm
Yes,
fine,
I
thank you.
have.
Thank you.
That's good. So I'm happy to listen to this course today. So my problem here is with this communication issue. So it's actually with my supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when she give you the orders whatsoever, and then you come to feedback, you're telling her what you have done and stuff. But then after that, you're gonna be like denying that you never told her anything. You understand? Like, go do this procedure, you go and do it. You come back, you tell her that I've done this and that. So it's gonna be maybe 2 weeks or maybe 2 days or so forth. It's gonna come back to you that you never communicate with me. So what strategy shall I take so that she cannot deny what I'm saying, or maybe when I'm giving the report to her, she mustn't say that I'm not giving her the report, or I'm not communicating well. I have a poor communication. So in that, what strategy can I apply there?
If you ask me, I'm not the person who can say that, but I think the problem is sometimes managers do not want to hear some reports because they want to feel like they have the power. And
Yes, that's true.
they have all the information they need to know. And you are not the person, or not especially you, but sometimes in the team members, like they are not the person to talk to them. Like they can feel like this, and this, I can say like this is some sort of power. What's the right word? I cannot remember, but it's something like venom, like
Yeah, could be power. That's the
something.
concept.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the power they have, so they don't want to hear, or they don't want to listen to you because they feel like they are too important to listen to you.
yeah,
Sometimes
that's
these
true.
things can happen in management. So I can say you can use you should not use the verbal communication.
Okay.
Use always like writing, and write reports and present to them. Like you should make them feel like they are doing some sort of managing job, like they are maybe they are working on a very, very big company, and they have lots of documents on their table, on their desks. So you should use some writing communication types. Sometimes this can work, but while we are talking about effective communication, there is one more way you can use, and that is the effective communication. You can try to communicate like, I'm doing this for our company, I'm doing this for our projects, I'm doing this for our goals. So you should listen what I say. I don't know why our communication not going well, but I'm ready to hear you. I'm ready to make this right. So please communicate with me with that level, with the level I communicate with you. So you can say things like that for communicating with them better. And I believe this will be quite okay for you in that
Yeah,
situation. But
it is.
you should always think like they can be let me check the right word, because I cannot speak with power poisoning. Yeah, they can leave that power poisoning situation while managing. That is so hard to cure in yourself. So
Yeah.
they should, they probably need some help about that. And this help must come from the members, because the members are the most important part of an organization, in an organization. So you, as a member of the organization, you should cure them with your effective communication, because they cannot make it. You can use this. Do you have any other question about this?
No, not
Okay,
now, but I'll come back later. But thank you so much for that input.
okay, okay then. Then I'm continue.
Thank you.
So we can say people who premeditate their responses are more focused on their message rather than on the speaker. Even when one is attentive to the speaker, understanding the message accurately can be difficult. And this can used as an example in your situation and without paying attention to the speaker, like it's you, the speaker is you, Lumbai. So it's impossible to comprehend the message. A receptive listener should be able to absorb the speaker's message and reiterate it back in their own words, rather than merely repeating the speaker's words like a parrot. And it happens quite a lot. This way, the speaker will know that they are being heard and understood. So expressing opinions before the speaker completes their message, or multitasking while someone is talking, send the message. It sends the message, I don't want to hear you. And I'm quite sure you are living these situations in your communication with your manager, Lumbai. I'm sure of it. So the next one is understanding nonverbal communication factors. Here is one of the best examples I find about this topic. The majority of communication is nonverbal, as I said before in the beginning. Body postures, gestures, tone of voice, and proximity are just as influential as words we are using. And I quite like the example in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's essay on the origin of languages and relation of melody and musical limitations, which is related to this topic. He says, our gestures only show our natural nervousness. That's not what I'm talking about. Only Europeans use hands and head movements while speaking, as if all the power of their language was in their arms and lungs. But all of this is useless. While a Frenchman strains himself and damages his body to say many words, a Turk takes a puff from his nargile, says two words with half mouth, and crushes him with a proverb. This example, can be the best example about body language and gestures we are using. So, body language, posture, body shape, face expression, gestures, and clothing can convey messages. Even makeup or the lack of it, well-groomed or messy hair, or clean or dirty shoes can carry a message. Like, I don't care you. Like, I don't care how you think about me. I'm wearing these shoes because I don't care what you think about me and my being. Managers should pay attention to these body factors and how they contribute to the verbal message. Like, that's the reason why I'm smiling when I'm talking to you. Like, for example, talking to Lumbai right now, before, because these these gestures, these body language postures and gestures can give the information that I am interested with your question and I want to understand what you're feeling. Like, it could be a bad message, or it could be something bad and upsetting for Lumbai, but before he start to talk, he was using a different face impression. But after I smiled to him, he changed his whole facial expression and he started to speak with smiling. and he even laugh. Like, you can use this body language to give not only information or not only communication, but give them some feelings from you to them. So the second one is voice factors. Voice is an important element of nonverbal communication. Like, in addition to the words being spoken, managers should listen to the intensity, tone, pitch, and frequency of the voice. These are some studies coming from its science part, but these factors can signal anger, fear, impatience, uncertainty, interest, acceptance, trust, and many other messages. It's important to look for consistency between body language, body factors, and voice factors. And it's important, it is more appropriate to look at groups of nonverbal cues, like the example I gave before. Proximity factor is where you position yourself when speaking to the employee, and how the room is arranged, and the color of the walls, furniture, or decoration. And while we talk about that, I can give another example, or I can say that you are living this problem with your manager. I'm sure of it, Lumbai. The proximity, I'm not sure if it's a male or female, but I say he. The proximity between you is always will always make you uncertain with what you talk. They will always use this for using their power, or make you feel they have the power. So do not let them use this on you, and you use this on them. You can use this on them. Like, you can close the distance between you and your manager while talking to them. So the next title is verbal communication, and we are going in deep. By the way, let me check. Okay. So while using verbal communication, we should use these factors, like show interest when talking to employees or team members. Show the interest, like let them know you are interested to what they say, or you are interested in the topic they are speaking about. The second one, be friendly, like I did with him. Be flexible. Flexibility enhances verbal communication. For example, if a manager wants to explain a new organizational policy to employees who are in a very busy work environment and believes that this meeting will disrupt their work, you can put this message aside and wait for the work to finish. So be flexible about your communication. You can communicate with them if you have the right opportunity. You can communicate with them more effectively. And the next one is be polite. This is the most important part of the verbal communication, if you ask me. And we don't need to talk about that, because we all know what being polite is doing with our communication. So the next one is be respectful. This one, the problem between Lumbai and his manager. So we already see the example of it. So written communication. Effective written communication skills are important for managers in total quality setup or the project management. It's possible for managers to develop and master the necessary writing styles by putting in a certain amount of effort as they do with other skills. So this is what I can say to use in your situation. Plan before writing, be clear, be direct, be concise, and self-edited. And corrective feedback communication. This is one of the most important parts of our effective communication with our group members, with the people we are working with. In these situations, like, use their feedback to correct the communication between you and them. Be positive. Always try to be positive. Like, for a feedback to be corrective, the employee must accept it. Like, yes, you're right. You can do this. That's the right way. Oh, I didn't know that, but you point a really important thing. Like, will you share the presentation? Yes, I will share it. And be realistic. Like, you can use the information about anything to be realistic in your communication. Make sure that the behavior you want to correct is within the employee's control. Like, let them control the communication between you. And be prepared. Like, you should know the things between you and the employee, or you and the group or team member. Like, don't delve into personal characteristics. Just use the correct information and be prepared for the feedbacks. So the next one, do not be completely negative. Yes, sometimes you should be negative, and that gives, like I say, sometimes that gives people some sort of trust. And you can use this in some situations, like give the employee the corrective feedback they need, but don't be completely negative. You can be negative, but not completely. So when providing corrective feedback to employees, you can take advantage of two approaches: talk, ask, and listen, or listen, ask, and talk. These are two different methods we are using in our communication, like in our feedback communication. Like with the talk, ask, and listen, managers talk to the employee about their behavior, about their work, about their goals, and ask for their input, and then listen to their feedback. According to Luke, if the employee feels that these issues are important, the process will be successful and the employee will strive to correct the problem. By the way, Luke is one of my friends from university. This means you can use your members to strive for the group's goal. You can make them feel like this. You can motivate them with talk, ask, and listen types. And the next one is listen, ask, and talk. In this approach, you will let them talk first, like open-ended questions or general questions that will make the employee talk about their work, their goal, their things, their ideas, and how things are going should be asked in this type of feedback communication. When the employee starts talking, you should listen them. If the employee starts talking about a behavior that needs to be corrected, support their comments. Like, yes, that's right, yeah. Like, make them feel like they are understood. And you understood, you feel the same thing with them. Ask them what they think to improve that behavior or improve that idea or the process. If the employee is not fully aware of the problem, you can move on the explanation stage, or you can add some information about that. Developing communication skills is something we should learn if we are not a good communicator, like daily track the information for our communication, like prioritize and determine the time constraints. Like I couldn't make this for this meeting because we have very little time. I couldn't finish the presentation. Decide who to inform. Like you should find the right person to inform, like right person to give information or right person to communicate in a group or in your members. Determine how to communicate, and we already talked about that before. Communicate and monitor, like how is the communications going on, and is it giving you the right results about the goals of your organization or your projects management. And check for understanding and get feedback, like the last page. Correct the feedback and use the communication about that. So how interpersonal skills affect communication? And I can say the things about this: awareness of the need, careful selection, and education. These are the things affect our communication skills with the people we are communicating. So like, for example, after interpersonal skills have become part of the selection process, the process changes. The examination of references and technical skills continues as usual. After the candidates with the best reference and technical competence have been identified, it is determined whether they have interpersonal skills such as listening, patience, empathy, kindness, open-mindedness, like assist others in differentiated work environment. Like as a project manager, when we are creating our teams to work together, to work on a project, like we should be select carefully. We should select the members carefully. And these are all communication let us do this more effectively. So we should know how to communicate with these people, like with the members of our. Could you share? Yes, I will share it. So the next one is personality and communication, and these are all unique things in our lives. Like everybody is different, and we should know this before we communicate with people. So we can use different communication types or models with communicating like any other person. Like everyone has a personality and everyone's personality is unique. This is the sentence we should know when communicating with people. And there was an example I wanted to add, but probably I forgot that. In communication, we should use a leadership type. Like the best way of communicative leader is sharing leadership, if I am saying it right. Like you should share your ideas with your members and let them share their ideas with you. So find the best way possible for your goals. The best road to write on is this way in communication and project management. So this is the end of our presentation, like what we learned page. And if you have any question, I'm here and I will be here until all the questions is answered. So I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Sergen. You can write on the chat comment if you have any question, or you can use as well the hand reaction. So let's wait a couple of minutes if anyone has a question.
Yes.
In the meantime, I do have a question myself.
Yes.
How can generational or cultural difference among the team members cause communication challenges in project management? And what are the strategies a project manager can employ to fill these gaps between the members and promote their effective communication?
Yeah, they can be effective really, really hard and affect that the communication cannot be, the information cannot be sent or received because different cultures, different personalities can make the communication like can make the understanding of different ideas. Like, for example, I'm not sure which one, but yeah, I used an example here, like body language. Like if I make this, it means different in my country, in my culture. But if you make this to an Italian or a French, they will feel something bad. Or maybe in China, we can say that in old times, in China, if you break the plate you are eating your meal and make some mess on the ground, that means I really like the meal, that was awesome, and you are a great person. You have some people working for you, and this mess is nothing for, no problem for your validness, you know? And if you ask me if you did this, the same thing in my culture, like in Ottoman Empire, like maybe hundreds of years ago, you could be killed because you, it's some sort of, how can I say, like, let me check, like some sort of disrespecting to the house and the owner. So different cultures and different backgrounds can change the communication, like even in the same group, like half of the members can understand what you intend to say, and the other half cannot understand what you intend to say, but they can understand what you say. So these things can be really different in really, and they can make really really different results in the communication. So you should be knowing the backgrounds. You should be knowing the cultures, different cultures of the members. Like I already gave that example in the presentation. Like you should communicate, or you should know the people before you start to communicate with them. And you can use body language for this. for example, body language, you can see if they nervous. You can see if they feel unhappy. You can say if they have some anger in that moment. And you can use these information to communicate better and make them understand you better. So what do you do when your boss gives you a task and you misunderstand him and do not do the job correctly and he insults you? I can say that nobody can insult me for anything. I will never let them insult me, even if I do something wrong, because this is let me say something not right, okay? And if I misunderstood my manager or my boss, when you receive a message from a sender, from your boss or manager or any other person, you should be sure that you understand it correctly. And they should be sure about that you understand them correctly. You understand what they intend to say. So this problem involves two ways, like one of it's you and one of your manager, your boss. So you should communicate with your boss. Like, I didn't quite understand what you say or what's the task you gave me. Can you explain it more detailed? Like something like this. You should always use the communication and you should always be sure about your communication between your boss. But I can say that never let a person insult you. That is not unacceptable. That isn't acceptable. Is there any other question?
I want to have another question. We have another question from
Yeah,
Frank Piri.
Frank Piri. Yeah. Frank?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So mine is just like a question. As you said, so inserting is unacceptable. Okay. Which an insert is not acceptable between the insert of the boss and the junior? I should put it in that way, because most of the times the juniors, some bosses or the managers, they always shout at their juniors, and they believe that whatever they say or they think or even the decisions they make, they are right decisions. They don't even think of the other person that can also have maybe they can also have knowledge on, yes, can have knowledge more than them. So they always shout. If you try to ask them a question, they always insult you and shout at you, and they don't even listen to you. And they even leave where you are and go where they want because they don't want to listen to what you're saying. How can you help that kind of manager? Because I understand, as much as the effective communication is concerned, there has to be a sender, a receiver, or a channel and a feedback. Okay, so yeah, so if there is misunderstanding, still we need communication. So if someone is not trying to listen to what the other party or the other side is saying, how can you help that person?
How we manage to communicate with them. Yeah, that's yeah, how we manage to communicate with those person, with those people. right?
Mhm.
Like the people that you are explaining. Like there are many ways to communicate with them, even if they don't want to communicate, even if they don't want to listen. Like you can use your body language, like make them see you strong, make them see you sure about yourself, make them feel like you know what you are talking about, and do not how can I say, like, do not bow your head, like look them in the eye, like trust yourself, trust what you are speaking about, and be ready to answer all kinds of questions about the topic you are talking about. Okay, this way they will think like this person knows what he is talking about. This person can give me some information about my own job, about my own project. And this person can help me to reach my goals in my company, in my project. So let them feel like you are a person like they should hear, they should listen. And you can make this with different types of methods, like as I gave an example, like look them in the eye, because believe me, eyes are one of the most important parts of the body language. And let them see you some, how can I say that, like strong body language, like you are sure about yourself, like let me check if I say this correctly, like upright posture, like trust yourself and make them feel that trust. These are the keys about these situations. So you can use these methods, but sometimes even if you use every methods, like even if you are the best communicator in the area, people still won't listen. So there is another way to make them listen to you, like do not communicate with them even when they are waiting for you to share some information. Make them come to you to get some information, so they should know you are important for that job. You are important in that group, and they should respect you, respect your ideas, and respect what you are saying. Let them see you as an important assets for their team. These are the answers I can give you.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, so these are some of the common problems in many workplaces, and we are facing challenges. So because some of us, we know how this communication, how we communicate with, how we can communicate with others. And most of the time, sometimes the bosses can just tell you this, say, okay, can you do A, B, C, D? So not telling you what they will need or at what time do they need the report. They just say, okay, can you do this? Okay, so maybe they want it immediately, but they don't even mention. But if you delay or with an hour or 2 hours, they will come and say, have you done that?
Yeah, and they
Have
will
you done that?
they will
So
talk about that so much. I know.
yeah. So if you say I'm about to do it, or I was busy doing some other things, I didn't even know that. Okay, so this thing was needed as soon as possible. I didn't even know. So I thought I would do it later after doing this. So they say, no, what I'm telling you, it means I want it right now. So you were supposed to do that. And if you didn't get it right, you are supposed to come and ask, say, I didn't get you right. Can I do this at a later time or a later day? So that's what some managers do.
Let me answer this problem
Mhm.
like the most clear way. Even if you say to your manager, to your boss, you didn't specify a time for this job, for this task, they will still talk to you about that. Why this isn't finished yet? Like something like this and more, I know. So, as I told you before in all the presentation, communication is not something like one person can complete. Like you should let them, or sorry, you should push them to communicate with you. Like do this task. Okay, but when? You should ask. You should get the information you need, because otherwise they will always think like they are the right side and you are not right, and you are not
Wrong.
working correct, or you are working like you don't care the job, or you don't
Yes.
care what they gave you. Okay, so make them communicate with you, and if they don't, push them to communicate with you. Like ask the information you need to know about the task. Sometimes they do not explain very much, I know that. So in those situations, you should lead the communication, because as I said many times in the presentation, like communication is not something in one way. Sometimes I should let you lead the communication between us. Sometimes I should take the lead and make you understand what I intend to say, what I'm saying. That is the key between you and your manager, or your boss. Okay, use this, use some questions to understand it. So
Okay.
next one, based on Frank's question, can I communicate with such kind of person through written communication? Yes, of course. And if you ask me, written communication is better way to communicate people like that, because in written communication, some sort of formal feel comes in, some formal power. Written communication has some sort of formal power, so you can use that formal feeling in your written communication. And if you ask me, you should use the written communication like email or messages or any other types of written communication with those kind of people. And please share the video with me, thanks. Okay. I believe they will share it. Is there any question? Because believe me, I will be here, like all the questions are answered until they are answered.
We have one question from
Yeah.
Andrew Daniel.
And we Daniel Odro Darkwa. Okay. Like something like this. Yeah. And we.
We can hear you. If you have problem with your microphone, you can write in the chat. the question?
Because we can't hear you. There is an hand sign, by the way, from Mamadou Omaragoni. I didn't solve that, sorry, but after Antvi's question, I'm ready to answer yours too.
I think his microphone isn't working. Andrew,
Yeah, probably.
you can write in the chat the question you have. In any case, you can go ahead and reply to the other question.
Yeah, Mamadou Omaragoni, if I'm not saying it wrong. You used hands. Maybe you can ask your question while we are waiting for Antvi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, well, my question is just if you can share this video with us so that
Yes.
yeah, with the participants. Thank you very much.
So do you have a question about the presentation or about the topic?
Right now,
okay.
no.
Okay.
Everything is clear.
And I believe Antvi here one more time. Antvi, I believe you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. You can use the chat section if you have a question.
Yes. In the meantime, do anyone else have any questions? If not, Antwi will be the last one. We will wait for him. I have a question here.
Yes.
From Arnulfo. Is there a better way to handle a sales service in person who obviously doesn't listen well? What are you saying? And just keep on talking whatever he says he wants to say instead of delivering the answer.
I can answer like there is not a best way for any kind of communication problem. Like you should see what they are feeling, what they are thinking. You should understand them before try any kind of communication, or before try to correct the communication between you and them. So as I said, there is not a single way for the best correction in your communication between people. So I can say, let them speak. Let them finish what they are talking, like, and make them feel like you are caring and you are respecting what they are telling you. Like, let them feel that you are respecting their ideas and what they are talking about. So after that, you can make them respect you because you already listen and understand them. You can show them this, and after that, you can communicate with them more correctly and more effectively. I can say that about this because there is not one correct or best answer, things like that in situations like that. So first one, Nicholas Itam. I'm not sure how to say it. Like, we are ready to hear your question.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was on the road when the timing wasn't suitable for me, but I have to because I like the topic. Thank you very much. Even though I couldn't get most of the things you said, but is it possible that you can send the soft copy of your presentation to students, or is it possible? And then secondly, if there's a problem, if the project fails as a result of ineffective communication by the stakeholders of the project, who is to blame?
Everyone. Like, I can say that clearly, everyone. If a project is failed because of ineffective communication, everyone can be blamed because as a project manager, if I cannot communicate effectively with my team members, maybe I can think like I have no problem, but they are the problem. And believe me, this will never be the right, or this will never lead me to the correct answer. So I should look into myself and my communication between them, and I should look for a problem in my communication. And if I'm doing everything right, if I'm doing everything correctly for our communication, this time I should look for my team members, what they are doing wrong. And I should work to correct them on these topics for us to get an effective communication. So you see, if I have the problem, if I am the problem, I should correct these, or if they have the problem, I should find a way to correct those problems between our communication, between us. And the same things works for the members. If they have a problem with the communication between us, they should look for them. They should look for the problems, like what is the thing we are doing wrong in our communication? Why I cannot understand what our manager or our boss say, or why I cannot make them listen my ideas, listen what I say. So what can I make or do to make them listen to me or understand me? So it works in two ways, and as like here, like the two part of the communication has information, and if you can send the right information with the right way to communicate effectively, they should listen and get the information in the right way for the effective communication. If one of these parts cannot work correctly, it won't work and it will fail, and it will probably cause you to fail the project or a task. So this works in two ways, and you should know that. And next one, I believe Oscar Sinkutwa, right?
Hello,
Hello.
thank you. Actually, the first point from my side, let me introduce myself. I'm Oscar Sinkutwa, as you have mentioned already. I'm the co-founder and the managing director for Synsize Worldwide Company. It's just a start-up, a company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this topic is very, very, very helpful to me. But what I've discovered earlier on is that the way we pray communication, actually we are very off from the true channel that we are getting here. So I just wanted to be helped if previously we have been praying a bad communication, and now we have come to know through learning. Then you find that we have lost the customers because of communication that we were doing before. How can I go back and convince maybe the customer I lost before due to poor communication, or the team that I'm working with, if they don't realize that we have a challenge on this area, maybe because of poor communication or bad communication that we are praying for. So how can I go back and convince these two channels, the customer and the team that I'm working with in the company?
Yeah, let me ask you first. Do you have the same team? Still have the same team
Come again?
working with you? Do you have still have the same team in your company?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then you should first start with your team and ask them, what do they think and why you lose those customers? And let them know before they start, is there a communication problem between you and the customers? And let them think about that. Like, you can even give them time, like, give me a report about this, like maybe write a report about this. It's not that hard. It's not like a homework, but I think there is a problem about our communication. There is a problem, our company having some issues with the communications with our customers. So ask your employees, ask your team members, and ask them to be honest about their answers, about their ideas, like, and let them know if they did something wrong. You can always make it right, and it's not a big problem, because losing one or two customers will not collapse your whole system. But losing a member in your team, like giving himself or herself to the company, to the system, or to the project, losing that person can collapse all the system. So trust your team and communicate with them first. After that, you can find an answer to your question how to get our customers back with your team and use their ideas. And with communication with your customers, you can use 1 or 2 or 3 different methods, but I believe the best one is being honest and respectful and tell them the truth. Like we had some communication problems with our customers, and we are working on these situations with these problems. So please let them know if there was a communication problem with you and our company, so we can manage to make things right, and maybe we can earn you back as our customer, or you can use as a partner in our job. So use this language to make them feel like you see them as a partner, not a customer. And use honest and true words in communication with your customers. These are the answers I can give you, because I do not know every single detail about the situation, but I can say this.
Yeah, actually, I'm helped. And I was taking from the topic of what we learned. So on the bullet of follow, is follow, B, prioritize, and set time constraint. Those are challenges. And decide who to inform, determine how to communicate, communicate and follow up, confirm and understanding. G, receive feedback. Is where I was by asking this question. Actually, we have a number of issues to address on that area. Thank you, because I've understood the presentation from your side, and I'm really appreciating for it.
Thank you. And I will give you the example in your situation with these steps. You had a problem with your customers and you think it's about communication, like it's ineffective communication, and these problems arise. So follow the problem. What can it be in your ineffective communication? Is it your team, or is it a member of your team, or is it your company policy, or is it your customers' ideas? Like, follow the problem, okay? So you can find the right point to communicate with them. So prioritize and set time constraints. Like, is it a really big problem for you right now? Or do you have time to correct these problems? If you have time, you can even train your team members, even train your group, and let them find the solution like themselves. So next one, decide who to inform. Like I told you, is it all your team, or is it 1 or 2 member of your team? You should find the right person with the real problem. And next one, determine how to communicate. This is the topic about it. Yeah,
Sorry.
determine how to communicate, no problem. So if you find the right person and decide who to inform, you can determine how to communicate with him or her. Like, it can be one of the member of your team or one of your customers, okay? So determine how to communicate. Like, you should trust your members, or you should trust your ways and your communication, and you can defend your situation in this problem with your customer, or you can communicate with something. Yes, sir, we have a problem about communication, and we understand that we couldn't find the right solution for you, but we are working on it. Like something like that can answer many questions for your customers and even for your team members. Like the next one, communicate and follow up. You can start the communication, but you should follow that communication where it leads to you, like where it will take you and what will you see, what will you learn from that communication. And confirm understanding is one of the most important part in effective communication. Like you should confirm if you understand your customer or your team member, and you should confirm that they understand you, like your customer or your team member, and receive feedback. And this feedback gives you the information if they understand or they do not. So I think, no problem. I think there isn't another question because I cannot see any hands.
Yes, I see that were all the questions. So thank you, Sergen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. And see you tomorrow at the same hour for another live class. Thank you, everyone.
Before we finish, can I say something about communication? Like the most important part about this lesson. You can all say like English is not my first language, and I do not know English very well. You can all say that, and you can all understand this. But if you look at how we communicate, you can actually learn what is the effective communication. Like sometimes I cannot say what I intend to say, or sometimes I cannot understand what you intend to say, but we still can communicate effectively, and we still can understand each other's questions and answers. So this is the lesson we are trying to understand. This is the thing we are trying to learn in communication, in effective communication, actually. So look how I move, look how I use my hands, look how I use my hands when I could not find the right word in my sentences. And I can be sure with that you understand that I'm struggling with things like that. So I'm giving a deeper information about myself to communicate with you more effectively. These are the methods we can always follow in our communication. And I saw Meryem Osman. Is that right? Do you have a question? Because I saw you opened your mic, and I'm not sure if you are going to ask something.
Yes, I had a question actually.
Yes.
This slide's going to be shared, and how can I find them later?
I will share all the presentation with AIU, so you can always ask them to share with you, because I always share everything about my courses, and you can always find it.
Yes, the class will be available in a few days in the student section. You can check that.
Okay, then these are everything I can say about these topics, and hope to see you again in another course.